DizzyPunch. Hello and welcome to the GM Bus Stop. I'm Nick, your host of this series, and here with me today is Todd from Earthformer Games.
Hello.
If you guys are watching the video version of this and are confused on what you're seeing, well, guess what? We are now changing it up. We've gotten more budget in there. We're changing it up.
It's the future. It's 2025 now.
Exactly. Yeah, we're updating the background image, and your eyes are not dirty or anything. I'm moving. I have lips.
Which side of me are you on?
Yeah,
On this side.
yeah. There we go. There.
Oh.
Yeah, I have dyslexia, so I didn't know whether or not to like say left, your left or my right in that
Right.
sense. It was
Yeah,
already
you're
too
right.
confusing for me to try to say anything.
Yeah.
But
It wouldn't
yeah,
help.
no, it's looking good. It's not done yet, as you can see by the empty posters, but we're working on it.
Look at these empty posters that are on this side, maybe. Or
No.
this side.
Yeah, there we go. No, you're looking at the GM bus. There's an actual sign that says GM bus stop, which I'm very
You
much.
can, yeah, just edit out whatever you need to edit out. I'm sure you can make it seamless.
Dude, there's only so much I can do.
I know. Fair enough.
I hate it when people say just fix it in post, or it's like you don't know what I have to do.
It's very easy to say that when you
Yeah.
don't work in post.
Exactly. But yeah, typically these are kind of like interviews, but this one we're gonna make it much more chill and relax and a bit retrospective of because recently we just made like a really cool one shot with Todd to promote his upcoming Kickstarter, Folklore's Fabulous Friends, which I will definitely link, and also images will pop up everywhere.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
by the time this goes out, I'll have a launch date as well. I'm hoping to have that very, very soon.
Yeah. It was an exceptionally fun game, I have to say.
Thank you. I agree. I agree. I enjoyed adventuring with you guys.
Yeah. Duke Zygmunt. Which was
Sigmund von Maximil. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if I told you this, but that was actually my granddad's name.
You did.
Yes, yeah. Sigmund von Maximil Prausmüller, which is just the coolest name in the world. I had
It
to
is
steal it for a fantasy vampire.
it is cool. I have to say it's really cool. You also like when we had to design the vampire, your one note of
Oh yeah.
like character design was like he needs to have a big bushy white eyebrows, and I was like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The rest of the character is not based on him. I would like to make that quite clear. But the eyebrows were and the voice to an extent was based on him. But yeah, the eyebrows, 100% his.
yeah, that's fun. I also want to point out is that we did this whole thing before Nosferatu came out. And
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
did this, and I even made the character design for this character before it came out because I remember it was supposed to come out on Christmas Day, and I remember we did this like early December, not
Mhm.
early, a little bit later in December. But the funny thing is that I gave Duke Zygmunt a mustache, and
Right.
the funny thing about Nosferatu, the new one, is like what they changed about the character is that they gave him a mustache.
Yeah. It's a bit. I saw it and loved it, but that wasn't the first time you see the full moustache. You're a bit like, oh, that's jarring. I
Yeah,
understand he's a gentleman of a certain era, but yeah, it was a. And even the voice,
yeah.
it was a little bit. Obviously, I'm not saying my voice is anywhere near as good as Bill Skarsgård, but there were a lot of similarities, definitely.
I do think so. I don't want to go too much into Nosferatu. I don't want to go on this tangent, but I kind of felt like, gosh, Skarsgård's like vocal performance was good in certain parts, but I feel like it was very much like give me a European accent, and this was kind of it, like a stereotypical European accent. And it felt like it was in that
Sure.
kind of world, which I guess is interesting. I don't know. I'm not gonna speak too much into it, just for the sake of it. But the reason why I brought up the mustache for our vampire was that we were wanting to base the design a bit off Nosferatu, but we were like, how can we change it up? And they were like, why don't we just give him a mustache? And then
Right.
apparently the filmmakers had the fucking exact same idea.
Right. The same as any kid drawing on like a newspaper. You just draw a moustache and you're like,
Yeah,
there, I've made it my own.
my goodness. But yeah, that's a bit of the funny thing that happened. Because
Yeah.
it's
Just parallel thinking, right?
yeah,
No, genuinely, we recorded it way before, and you were sending me pictures of it for like a month before that film came out. So,
yeah,
yeah, anyone who says we stole it, we didn't. I don't know how many people have said that. Probably zero, but we didn't. It's
yeah.
nice to have that on record.
I'm not even gonna say we're original because this concept of they must have been in production for like fucking years before us.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
no, just a fun little tidbit about about the little one shot. But this is what we're here to talk about. Little fun stuff about the one shot. You know, um, how this all started. Let's start from there. I remember you.
Mm,
I had just finished. I think I just submitted the interview with Noah from Minds Never Matter podcast. I believe they changed their
that's
name.
right.
Did they change their name of the pod?
Yeah, Hilarity Saves RPG. So that's the brand name, and then the show is now Minds Never Matter,
Yeah,
I believe.
I I think that was a good call because if they ever wanted to, if they ever wanted to go try something else within the podcast, then they wouldn't have to change the whole channel. They just change the name of like they have one world of the podcast is Minds Never Matter, and then if they want to do another campaign or something else, then they don't have to call it Minds Never Matter. They can call it something else.
Yeah.
It's the same thing when we were talking about our series for our channel. But yeah, that's a whole thing. But it was cool, and I really liked the name change. And the reason why I brought it up is that you commented on a video, not you commented on the Instagram post and saying that you really
Mhm.
liked it, and then later on you were saying like, "Hey, I'm doing this Kickstarter. I'd love to collab with you guys." And it was like, "Yeah, you were very much the first person that ever wanted to collab with us." So it was
Oh,
very much of a nice thing for us to want to like get our get this started with. So we really wanted to do really right by that.
well, that's awesome, and I think you absolutely have. I've said this to you not in public many times that I'm just completely overwhelmed and impressed by the amount of work that you put in. I'm really happy with how it all turned out and everything. So, but yeah, it's been considering it's your first collab and my second, I suppose. It's been a lovely experience. I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, it's a collab that's been in the making for months now. I mean, like we're almost in
Mm,
February and we started out early December, I think.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you had to do all the work in post, right?
Yeah.
So I just sort of closed my laptop at the end of the one shot and was like, great, job done. And then it was for you guys, it very much wasn't. Well, for you, it very
But
much wasn't done.
no, but I think you did an amazing job with the performance in itself, and hopefully we did a great job with the performances as well.
With
That's
Craig, yeah. Yes, yeah, yeah. I love them. It's I always get this. I run one shots pretty much once a month, sometimes a bit more, and I always get this feeling at the end of a one shot where I'm like, man, I like those characters. I wish we could, carry that on. I wish I was seeing them again next week, and I very much had that at the end of this, where even though it was only 2 hours all in, maybe the adventure, it felt like, oh man, I wish we could have another adventure. You know?
yeah, you know, I think that as well as a lot, but man, if we have to do something of the same quality again, I think I'd have to get out a mortgage or something. It's like I can't. I do think I did love playing Craig so much, and I do think there's so much of a story that we could continue be telling, and maybe hey, another one shot in the future one day. You never know.
Who knows?
Who
Yeah,
knows?
absolutely.
But yeah, that was so much fun. Man, I also think lightly of how can I like move the character forward? Like what's not been said of Craig, or how could how is Legion's story not done yet, or how is
Yeah.
Neela moving? Yeah, such a
Well, I mean, because again, it's a one shot. Um, there wasn't a lot of backstory, right? There wasn't a lot of character, so it's hard to know where to go. I guess we were to carry it on, I don't know why we're really talking about it because I don't think it's going to happen.
no.
But you could definitely bring more. I guess it depends what they want. What does Craig want? He wants to be the chosen. He is the chosen
Yeah,
one, of course. Craig, yeah, he's already the chosen one, so he's already achieved what he needs.
yeah.
Um, I'm sure we could think of something if we really put our minds to it. I'm sure we could.
Yeah, it was so like no, the cast of characters we had without like having a session zero as well. We just jumped in it.
Mm.
That's another thing.
Really? Yeah, yeah. And I think we only spoke. Obviously, I'd listened to your stuff before, so I had some sort of exposure to you guys. Um, but probably not the other way around, right? Especially me and you had spoken.
Hmm.
But for the others, we literally got on a call. We spoke for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then it was like, right, let's roll. So
Yeah,
there really wasn't a lot of, is this going to work or not? It was sort of at the deep end. Um, so yeah, again, with all that in mind, I'm really, really happy with how it all sort of turned out.
yeah. Me being in the background, also being afraid of all this, but like
Hmm.
I'm trying to set this up. Also, being the first collab that we've ever done, there's also this like thing in the back of our minds of like, oh shit, we need, this needs to go well. This needs to go well.
Right, right.
Yeah,
I mean, if it didn't, we could have just pretended it never happened, right?
that'd be worse. I'd hate that so much. Like, uh, there's an alternate universe out there where I just am crying in the corner if that never happened. But
Right. Oh, I'm so sorry. The file was corrupted.
don't
Oh, no, what a show.
that's my worst nightmare. I swear. I feel
Right.
like I have to always like especially doing these interviews. I always have to look at OBS to make sure that the red dot is on to make sure that everything's recording because
Yeah.
the paranoia of having done all this work of like communicating with someone, getting the schedule right, like having an amazing conversation
Mhm.
and then realizing, oh shit, none of it is there is the probably the most heart-wrenching
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of stuff with video or audio. Mostly the stuff I post is pictures, but I've started to try to. I'm being very brave, and I'm recording some videos for Reels on Instagram, and it's just like even that, right? I'm doing one take that's 15 seconds, and I watch it back, and I'm like, oh man, there was one of my hairs was out of place. Right, I'm gonna have to re-record it. And then you listen to it again. I did what I thought was a really good one, and I listened to it back, and you could hear like an ambulance driving past my house, and I was like, right, okay, right, we're gonna have to do it again. And the thought of getting one that you're really happy with, and then you get right to the end, and it's like, no, it's not gonna happen. Yeah, and again, like you said, if we would did this now with organizing multiple people getting in place, even worse. Why does anyone go into creative fields, man? It's so so horrible.
As we say this, as we're in this creative field and struggling to get forward. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, it is. I don't know. I feel like you're doing a really good job with your posting as well. I feel like you've gotten better as well. I remember
Well,
the
thank you.
the first ones we did was when we tried to promote this before we had the one shot out, and then I made a suggestion like, hey, why don't you like do a video thing, and I'll try doing a lips. I'll do like a ba 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 with
Mm.
my lips, and that did incredibly well for
Yeah.
both our channels.
Yeah. That was really, really successful.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, again, which I put down to you stitching it all together. I just stood in my bathroom and said a couple of lines, but yeah, I couldn't believe how popular that was, and yeah, it's so hard to know what's going to hit
Oh,
and what isn't. Equally, I did another one promoting it a couple of weeks after it came out, or a week after it came out, and it's just like no one saw it. Looking at the analytics and stuff, it's so difficult to know
it's
what
a
people are.
crapshoot, man. It's a
Yeah,
crapshoot.
yeah. Especially when you put work in, you know. But then equally, you do something that you put zero work into, and people are like, "Hey, I love this," and it gets loads of love. It's so hard to know what's going to hit.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But I guess we always put our best intentions forward and hope for the best. That's the only thing we can
Yeah,
do. But yeah,
yeah,
uh, so we talked about how we met. We talked about the promotions. Let's talk about the actual thing. So we have like our group of characters was we had Neela, who is this I don't even know. Neela was Neela was like this
right.
humanoid thing from nature, like a druid essentially. Yes.
I love that in the introduction. They sort of say, "Oh, she's a." Well, no one's quite sure what she is, and I think that's a really nice way to introduce a character, an oddball.
Yeah, someone who doesn't know what they are else is just a funny
Right.
concept.
And
Jess,
also that it doesn't matter, right? Doesn't matter.
yeah,
Huh, who cares, right?
yeah. No, Jess is really good at just like jumping into their characters, which is a.
Hmm.
I don't think they put a lot of work. Not that they don't put a lot of work into it, but I think they're just. It's so natural for them to just jump into something and then play with
Yeah,
it. And
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
we had Legion, who, oh my gosh, Corvin loves this kinds of characters, who, who are just oddballs in their own right.
Right,
But
right. The stoic but quiet oddball, and
yeah,
I think I remember as well. They said something about not having to worry about spells uh, during the one shot, and there is definitely a joy. I'm in my campaign where I play a barbarian at the moment.
Mhm.
There is something quite fun about you just never have to worry about anything. You always know what you're gonna do. But yeah, they definitely embodied that with the I know what I have to do. I have to rage in the first combat.
Yeah. There's a certain joy of simplicity that really
Mm.
happens, and I think I loved it being a warlock, where I was very limited in what I was able to do, but what I was able to do was pretty fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, you got, in real time, the whole one shot lasted about 8 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Real time, listening to it back, I definitely clocked that. And you had, what was it, Investiture of Flame
Yeah.
up for like the whole thing. So that was again quite lucky almost on your part.
Know your spells. That's all I'm gonna say. Know what you can do.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
It's you guys as a party are so direct. There is no sort of caution, right? Right. Normally, it's so the opposite. I've run D&D for a lot of people, and the amount of time I've spent with people saying, "Can I poke the door? Can I look at the door? Can I hear anything on the door?" And you guys were like, "Huh." Nothing in this room? Sweet, yeah, let's try a different door. Carry on. Right, a
Yeah.
ladder? Yeah, yeah, I'm going to straight up it. It was really an interesting way to play for me. I mean, it was great though because we just sort of whizzed through whizzed through everything. There was no, mucking about, no wasting time.
Yeah, we're a very decisive group. I think
Right.
that's the fun part about us is that we either do something or we don't stay on a topic for too long. I think it's because we're just used to being in a certain time frame. Like we're used to sessions just being short, so we know exactly what we have to do. Like our
Yeah.
intentions are very present, and that's what makes
Yeah.
it more entertaining, I think, rather than being cautious.
Yeah. I guess you're the DM normally for that group, aren't you? So,
Mhm.
I I wonder. Well, you can tell me. I suppose you can never ever have a session where you're like, oh, I'm not really ready for this, so I'll throw a random encounter at them and I'll have an interesting shopkeeper take up an hour of their time, because they would probably just be like, right, we kill it in one round, we go in, we don't buy anything, we go out, and you're like, okay, so it's been 20 minutes and I have nothing else planned.
I would say that I'm fairly lucky. Like I'm able to very much plan for the majority of each episode because I always like to think of like I write scripts and everything. I structure like animations
All
and
right.
like stuff like that. So I very much view D&D sessions as kind of episodes to a series.
I think you kind of have to in actual play stuff, right? Like it's
Hmm.
it is different to your normal home game, right?
Yeah, it is very different, and every time we have a session, there's always the question of like, what's the story we're trying to tell, what we're trying to introduce, and like, what what's going to be a cool thing that everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But I do think like throwing random encounters is always fun. I mean, like, I spoke with my group earlier on, and we were talking about like the funnest thing that I did for the group was that I threw a random encounter at them, and it was the Vegosaurus episode where I just threw dinosaurs made out of
Yeah,
made out of
yeah, yeah.
vegetables. Yeah.
You've spoken about this before, and I've
Hmm.
seen the thumbnail. I actually haven't caught up to this episode yet, but it's almost like the stuff of legend on your on your channel or in your content. It's like I'm eager to get there to find
Yeah.
out what this, because apparently they all loved it as well.
Yeah. It
So I
would.
need to see what it's all about.
It was very fun. But yeah, and then for one shots, I think we're moving a lot more towards one shots, just because we can put more time and effort into that. In terms of visually, because with episodes you want to post them out as much as you can.
Sure.
Uh, and the story is always going to be different, but there's always a negative to that that's very comparable towards how people watch TV and how people watch movies, where it's like people have to in order to watch something, people have to commit to a TV series.
Yeah. No
Well,
one's jumping in at episode 9, right?
yeah, exactly. And then for one shots, the beautiful aspect of it will be that it's very much like a movie where it's like, oh, I have some time to kill, I'm gonna sit here for like 2 hours, an hour and a half, and watch this one shot. And
Sure.
yeah, so we're kind of trying to figure out now whether or not we want to go from movies or TV.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, both have their benefits, right? Like, I feel like if you somehow manage to get a following with the campaign, not saying that you
yeah. Well,
you guys can't or whatever, but it's obviously super saturated market, and people have to buy in, right?
hmm
You're asking someone to give up 50 to 100 hours of time, whereas with one shots, it's like, did you like this one? Hopefully, if not, here's another one.
yeah,
Yeah, I can imagine very tough choice, but um, I'm sure you'll make it work whichever way you end up going.
yeah. We have a plan. We're gonna talk about it more, but you know,
Okay.
going back to the one shot. Sorry, we keep sidetracking, but just making fun points. That's all I'm saying. But
Look,
yeah,
this bus isn't due for a while, so we can sidetrack.
yeah. All right. Did I mention my? Yeah, I play Craig. Craig, who it was a character I really wanted to play, but I never get to play. I've always run in games. I don't get to play characters very often, so I was very happy to like play this normal guy.
I so obviously we played the one shot, and you did all the illustration and the animation afterwards, and there was one that you sent. And it's like the battle thing, and he's got the shield out, and it's got the Sydney Swans
Yeah,
logo on the shield, and I just thought that was such a that is so bizarre because when you actually think about it, he has come to this world, and he has gone somewhere with a shield and been like, "Can you put this emblem onto my shield, please?" Which obviously is overthinking it way too much, but to me that was a really funny thought that he was like, "No, they're the Sydney Swans. Don't worry, just put the swan on it, okay?"
exactly. No, that was a fun touch as well. I didn't even do it. Was Corvin that like
Or
was
was it?
making. So Corvin's did a lot of the character illustrations for our three main guys, and then I focused a lot on everyone else, and then I also did the coloring and a lot of stuff otherwise and the backgrounds. But no, Corvin did a great job with illustrating our characters. You know,
Mhm.
I love the fact that like Craig is just wearing the jersey, like the uniform for the
Mhm.
Sydney Swans. That's his whole
Yeah,
getup.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a fun idea of when you're thinking about your character, what they look like. Their outfit is so important, right? It's one of the most defining features. Because you can say, "Oh, their hair is like this" or whatever, but the real detail I usually find comes from the outfit. So for you to be like, "Yeah, yeah, he's wearing a football uniform, a football
Jersey.
jersey." Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, Jersey. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it was a great touch, and the picture of the three of them taking the selfie is
hmm
so lovely. It's such a
Yeah,
nice cover.
I knew during the campaign like this will be the the not wallpaper, but this will be the how do you say
Thumbnail.
thumbnail. This will be the thumbnail. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
hmm
yeah. It was a touching moment,
hmm
especially because it got pretty gruesome. It got pretty gruesome. I didn't really realize how violent and horrible parts of it were until I listened back to it. Um, yeah,
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 the
it
sound.
got pretty nasty.
Yeah, the sound effects did. I made sure to get crunchy sound effects and like good stuff into it. But
Mhm.
that's some of my favorite parts of like these parts is just to bring the noises in my head into the video, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
hmm
yeah. Especially because we're a bit limited with not being on person, doing it
Yeah.
through microphones. I do a lot of sound effects with my mouth, obviously with my mouth,
Yeah.
and a lot of the time it doesn't come through. So it was good to have that kind of. You fixed it in post, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Your
But
favorite thing.
yeah, that's my favorite thing. Yeah, great. But that in itself is taking note from shows like Dimension 20 where like I don't think people really realize this is that Brennan is doing these things. He is giving sound effects with his mouth, but they're being
Yeah.
amplified by the sound effects being added in post. And I tried to do that with our one shots in our series just because that gives a sense of reality and a bit more production value. If that
It's, yeah, it's just the same as what I was saying about it's not the same as your home game, right?
Mhm.
Anything you do for people to consume is not the same as your home game, and it definitely
Mhm.
adds another layer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What were we saying before? Let's go. Yeah, the combat.
Mm,
Um, yeah, yeah. Our characters took a selfie in front of the place because that was a character ability. That was a class ability for something that never had to come up because we were so OP. I don't think we went half
yeah.
health, and that wasn't
I,
for.
I had some horrible rolls as well.
Yeah.
Especially there was I think it was the second to last or the third to last round of combat when they're fighting in the tower. Spoilers, by the way. I hope
Yeah. This.
everyone's seen the one shot.
It,
But he was going to grab you and fly out of the tower through the
mhm.
wall, and suddenly that would have been well, no one's anywhere near him, right? And you've got Druid probably had some spells, but Barbarian would have been kind of out of action there.
Mm.
And I rolled like a two or
Yep.
something on that, and that really cemented. Okay, that's it. It's all over. It's all over for poor Zygmunt.
Vicious mockery, baby.
That was it.
Yeah.
You're right. That was it. The vicious mockery. Yeah, that really, really just transformed it. It's amazing
Mhm.
how the most uh, unassuming spell can turn the encounter.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's there are so many great moments, but we rolled poorly as well in a lot of parts. Well, I didn't. I did. I know that,
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not how I remember it.
but Corvin rolled like two nat ones at once.
And like
They,
four natural 20s or so
yeah.
throughout
Oh my gosh.
throughout this couple of hours.
They're the one character that they shouldn't roll nat 20s because they had brutal critical, they had like other stuff on top of it. They had like their like hard like barbarian stuff, other stuff. It was like stacking things upon things, and then it was literally up to 40 damage for that one attack.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was
Mhm.
even at the high levels like we were playing. Was it level 11 we
Yeah,
were at?
yeah, somewhere around like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I I don't go level 11. I don't I'm afraid to go to level 11 with my team. Like I think the highest we've ever gone to was probably like 10,
Right, right, right.
and that was
I
stretching
love
it.
it. Yeah, I love it, man. The higher level, the better.
Mhm.
I run level 21 shots pretty regularly. But I also did about a week ago. My campaign that finished about 18 months ago. Um, I did like an epilogue for them. I did a tying up all the loose ends, and I was like, level up your characters to 20. Let's do a proper power fantasy. Take an extra feat each. Let's go. And part of me was like, I'm so worried what how this is going to turn out. But I think it was a really nice way to have them see their characters be, the full max potential. And sure, they threw some like massive curveballs at me. One of them took Wish. Luckily, he never cast it, but that was in the back of my mind the whole time. I was worried about that. Um, but yeah, dude, I think that there is a natural kind of fear of it, especially because
Mhm.
most campaigns top out in what, you know, under 15,
Yeah.
definitely. But I think just go for it. Give it a try one day. Give it a try. I think
Okay.
you might like it.
I'm afraid like have you ever played Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic of the Gathering?
I've played Magic twice, so no, effectively is the answer no.
Well, there's this weird like if you ever played early Yu-Gi-Oh, it was a little bit more balanced, and there was like ways for anyone to win, luck of the draw and all that. And then nowadays, the game is so fucked up that you can't play. Like I tried playing a new Yu-Gi-Oh game where it's like, oh, I have one turn, I set one card face down, and then the other guy was like, okay, I block your zones. You can't draw. You can't do this. You can't do that. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, great. And I'm worried that is going to be what happens when I go to level, when I go up like a level 15, where my players are just going to like screw me over to a point where, where it's like not even
Yeah.
fun. I don't know.
I mean, it can be like that, I suppose. I guess it depends on the party, right?
Yeah.
It's if somebody goes full power build and they, you see the videos on YouTube, right? Like, oh, here's the most OP combination imaginable. Make sure you get this magic item. Make sure you take
Yeah.
this. Make sure you take this spell. And sure, that's fun in a way. Um, but yeah, it can definitely feel a bit like that, especially when you're running one creature against three or four, and they just take three or four massive turns in a row, and you're just like, I can't do anything. Yeah, okay, yeah. So that's 250 damage I've taken. Carry on. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is still fun though, dude. It's I still recommend it, even though you're right. There is that kind of chain of effects. It's still fun.
Hmm. What is the term? Not it's not there is a term of min maxing, but there's like how do there's those YouTube videos where it's like how to like maximize your character build.
Right, right. How to irritate your DM.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
I uh, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna comment on that, but let's move on with the one shot. Yeah, we entered the building where I honestly assumed that there would be more like traps or something, but we were the type of group that said like, nah, we're here for this. Let's go.
Yeah. I'm generally not that into traps, to be honest. Especially the location was a guy's house.
Yeah.
So, the thought of there being like a pit trap in the doorway of his house is like it doesn't make sense. So, I mean, there was one thing with the telescope that you
Yeah,
did
yeah.
trigger, and there was one more thing that there was a rose garden around the back that you didn't venture into, and there was a little thing there that could have caught you out. But
Oh.
generally, I don't really like running traps unless it's um, like a natural occurrence, like loose floor while you're
Hmm.
climbing the side of a mountain or something.
Yeah.
Um,
Living furniture.
Living furniture, a
Yeah.
classic. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Oh, that is a classic. But yeah, you just mentioned the Rose Garden, where it's like, wait a minute, would that meant that Neela would have gone into the Rose Garden and something happened? Like this is like post credits.
So there were actually two things that you didn't explore.
Hmm.
So yeah, there was the garden that was the mist, and that was there were three ways you could encounter Duke Zygmunt. The first one, this is fully behind the behind the
Hmm.
scenes. The first one was where you first found him having a feast in the
Hmm.
main hall. Second one was if you look through his telescope, and the third one was if you basically mess about with his rose garden, he would mess you up. He would come and attack you. So yeah, there was the rose garden, and the other one there was the Shrek's outhouse. I'm sure you remember that description. And there was actually a prisoner, somebody he'd kept in there who would have done a bit of a lore dump and stuff, but
Oh,
you never went in there, so you probably left him there. He probably just died from being forgotten about.
I don't know. We would have stayed in the place,
Yeah,
and
you're right.
eventually would have needed to take a shit or so
Right.
we would have definitely would have like met the guy as we were in our worst moments. We were like, oh,
Mhm.
the next thing we would have done was probably make indoor plumbing. That would be our like
Sure, sure. Yeah, it might have been hard since you are right out in the middle of nowhere, but
true.
look, I'm sure with the amount of money you guys have, by the time you hit level 11, you can make it happen.
Yeah. Oh, there was a fun moment where it was where I think it was Craig playing the piano and finishing, and then he was like, "Oh, this place is nice. I guess this is gonna become a home invasion now."
Right.
It's-
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that idea as well. Well, there's this big empty house. I guess we'll live in it
yeah,
now. I always like that kind of. Um, it's like a nice ending, right?
yeah,
With one shots, the problem is always how do you end it? Hey, you did the thing. The end. Whereas that to me was a nice sort of tell me what you do with the house. I always like that kind of a nice way to finish it.
yeah, and it was a very cute way. of like all of us like trying to find our own spaces in the house, and then me and
Yeah.
Neela like being like brotherly sister thing happening.
Just ignoring the cult activity as well,
Yeah,
the chanting and the pure blackness coming from Legion's quarters.
truly. The room filled with eyes,
Right,
painted eyes.
right. I feel like if there is a sequel, you're gonna have to take out Legion. Legion's the bad guy
Legion's the
now.
bad guy. We never established that Legion was bad nor good, which I think is fun to just keep it like, hey,
Yeah.
they're just with us, you know. I
Hmm.
honestly, if you ever seen Dragon Ball, it's a bit like how I think this is how a Piccolo happened, where it was like Piccolo was the enemy of Goku, and then then they just joined the party, and, and then go on adventures together. So it was a
Right.
bit like that, where I think Legion was the enemy at one point, and then we got him to join our side.
Yeah. 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 I haven't seen that, but I mean, it's a
Yeah.
trope, isn't it? Right?
Hmm.
Enemies to friends, they end up fighting alongside each other. But maybe it'll turn the other way eventually.
You're hoping for two.
I'm just think, I mean, I'm always thinking about things, man.
Yeah.
I have a completely restless brain. It's always, thoughts or thoughts. But it's you were friends for the one shot, and that's the
Hmm.
most important thing.
Yeah. uh, Yeah, and then we oh, forgot to mention our subclasses. Oh my goodness, we were all playing really cool subclasses. I mean, like I'll talk a bit about like Corvin's character building for Legion, whereas like we were sitting down together and we were talking about what we want to play, and we were on like a
Mhm.
Discord call, and then you said like, hey, you get these magic items, go look for and have fun, and then it was like, yeah, cool, and then we are looking down the list of magic items, and what do we find? The cloak of many eyes, and then
The
Corvin
eyes.
just
Yeah.
completely lit up and be like, "Oh, yeah,
Yeah. It was very cool. It very much fit the thing of the theme of the hive mind barbarian, right? Like
hmm
there's many people with you at all times. Many people keeping watch over you. I suppose would be a
yeah,
good way to put it for Legion.
hmm yeah." That was a fun moment because I was there when the concept was created, but then
Nice.
yeah, and then I think I think Jess mentioned this earlier, but like she really loved the idea of the evolution druid,
Yeah.
the path of evolution.
Yeah, of the most people I've spoken to about the new subclasses, the two that get people really excited have been the evolution druid and the GM patron warlock, which obviously you
Yeah.
played, but and I had a huge amount of fun putting together the evolution druid. It's really fun to dig into. What cool things could they do? And I could do like 6 or 7 abilities, right? All little things that you can pick from, and I love that kind of customization option. Um, and I don't think you even got to see the really high level ability. Do you remember, did you ever read what that was?
No, I did
Or
not actually.
Yeah, so it's not strictly speaking evolution related, although
Hmm.
maybe in a way. I don't know science stuff well enough, but it's mitosis.
Hmm.
So when you get hit and you go down to half damage, you split into 2 copies of yourself,
Oh,
and you roll a new initiative, and there's 2 little versions of you running around, half the size of your uh, of your normal character.
that's cool.
Um,
That's
yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
cool.
It is fun. It is fun, and
Hmm.
balancing it was a bit rough. And I guess it depends where you. If you roll initiative and you're right next to each other, you can set some crazy combos up. But um, balancing D&D stuff is so funny because it gets to a point where you're like, okay, so wizards are bending reality at this point. What is a fighter gonna do?
Yeah.
So the way to balance is to just be like, is this fun? Right? Is this fun? And is it not too ridiculous?
Yeah. And is it a unique mechanic that like none other classes can do, which is also something that you have to consider. But
Yes,
I
yes,
think
yes.
I think you did a great job with all these subclasses, and we had the whole pick of the litter when
Thank
it
you.
came to them. But the reason why I chose the Warlock Patron was because I really wanted to play an isekai character, and I thought this was the best way to do it, was to literally like there's an anime out there. There's an anime about an isekai character who goes to another world and has their cell phone.
Right.
Yeah, and
I didn't know that. I didn't
no,
know that was fun.
it's a fun idea. So this character dies in their world, and they're brought to God, and they're like, "Hey, I'm sorry, dude. You know, I killed you by accident, but you know, you weren't meant to die. But you know, I'm gonna send. Listen, I'm gonna fix this. I'm gonna send you to a new world, and you can have anything you want." And then the guy's like, "Can I just bring my phone with me?" And he was like, "Is that it? Are you sure?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure.
Right.
Yeah, just I think it'd be cool to have my phone." And then God's like, "Okay, sure, you can have your phone. Is that it?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then, "Okay," and sends him off to
That's
a new
a funny
world.
one, man. Yeah.
And then he has God
Especially.
on speed dial as well, which was very funny because we had,
And that's where you kind of
yeah,
inspired by as well. You
hmm
had what God or Todd as it
yeah,
was texting you back. Yeah, I mean, in my head, you always kind of have a picture of how the subclass is going to look, right?
hmm
And in my head, it was like, oh, this is a crazy person who is, no one really believes if they actually have this connection or whatever. And you were like, yeah, so I actually text him all the time. I'm going to show everyone the messages I've got, which it's like completely not what I had in mind. But it's also so fun to see that that's what came out of it. What was inspired by by the subclass.
it just works so well. To be fair, I felt like the flavor, like we had barely any flavoring to it besides the fact that I just have this phone, and you know, being a
Hmm.
warlock, you have this ability, you have this invocations or like that stuff at level 2 that gives you like the book of stuff, and you write things down into it, and that's essentially having your phone with you. So
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
no, it
Yeah.
was
No, it was definitely fun. Definitely a fun take on it, which I
mhm,
really appreciated.
yeah. And then there was a bunch of other stuff that we could try out, but these were I'm glad that we had these like we had like a three core of like caster, melee, and a bit of in between with the warlock
Hmm.
stuff. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and you know, everyone kicked ass. I have to say, like
Yeah.
everyone got their little moments. I mean, like I'm gonna spoil everything, obviously, but like uh, Legion got the it was definitely like the MVP a lot of times with killing the most amount of things. I think their what was their body count?
Same.
Yeah, they killed two of the monsters, and then
They didn't get the finishing blow on Zygmunt, but
no,
they definitely did some huge, huge damage.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and then obviously Neela was the one that got the final stroke of it with I feel like how long did we talk about firewall? I feel like the moment we mentioned it, it like 6 minutes had passed just talking about the logistics of this spell and being like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Nah, this is not
Yeah. Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Well, it's always, I've had that spell cast a bunch of times in games. I've cast it as a character as well. But
Hmm
then when someone's like, "Can I do this?" and you're like, "Can you do this?" and then you're like, "I don't see why not." It's always nice to see a new take on it. But that was an awesome moment, and I think there was some really fun bits with uh, Neela did devolve on Zygmunt as well to
Yeah.
give him the soft skin, which
Yeah.
definitely like buffed everyone else as well.
Soft brain. Zygmunt.
Soft brain, yeah, sure.
Yeah, that was great. Like the de-evolve stuff, the evolve stuff, that was great. Like I hadn't really looked too much into the evolution back, but I was so pleasantly surprised
Hmm.
just hearing like because Jess, the funny thing about Jess is that they're studying to be a pediatrician. So they're very
Right.
much like in the doctor space and know a lot about biology and stuff.
Oh, cool, 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 cool. I like that.
So I think she mentioned it like how she was fascinated with the actual class, but it was also just like seeing how they interpreted everything and seeing it, how they worked. It was very
Mm.
fun.
Yeah, nice.
Hmm
No, yeah, there was definitely a fun character as well. That it was like we said at the beginning, don't really know what they are, but
Yeah,
they're just a part of nature, an ever-changing, moving part of nature. And yeah, it is. I guess it is biology, right?
yeah,
Ultimately, it does come down to biology, which is kind of more boring than somebody who is out amongst nature and observing it. But it's still, again, like I said with your warlock, not really what I pictured when I was putting it together. But that is so awesome that something so unique and interesting came out of it.
hmm Same thing with Legion. Did you ever expect Legion, the character, to have to be like the many-eyed?
No, not really. No, no. Again, that's like it's more of a kind of insular character to me. It's like everything's happening in their mind. And Legion was the complete opposite of that, right? It's all out there for everyone to see. So again, a hot take on it, but yeah, really fun to see. Again, really fun to see what came out of it.
Yeah. If we ever do a one shot, even without per se you, but like even in the future, I'm definitely gonna have these like subclasses available to everyone to play, because then that'd be very sick.
Dude, that makes me so happy.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy to hear that it was good enough to want to use again, right?
Absolutely. We do. I think I want. There is a one shot I have in mind that I'm going to plan moving forward. I'll give people an idea where this has been in the works in a while, but I wanted to get people I've interviewed, like the DMs, and the theme is that we're coming. They're going to play stereotypical like D&D players that are online, and they're brought into this mansion under the guise of meeting this famed D&D dungeon master Wen and Wee Walligan, and then it just be and then they're
Right.
and then it becomes like a spooky mansion situation. So
And so they're like so you'd have like the power gamer, the meta gamer, the I don't know. I don't know what other horrible stereotypes there are. The main character, like
all together, and then they all have to survive in this like real world problem.
So what? No abilities or anything. So it probably wouldn't be like classes. It's just like
No,
they'd
probably be
people.
like kids on bikes or something.
Yeah. Right. That's fun, dude. That's a funny idea.
We did kids on bikes for our Pokemon one shot, which was a fun idea.
Yeah.
Which highly suggest people to do. I think kids on bikes is like, if you really want to focus on RP, then I think kids on bikes is really fun to use. But
yeah, I've never played it, but it's famously, no rules. It's like super easy to just get to grips with. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. What else happened? So we killed the monsters, which was very epic. The white the white bricked room, which was very. It probably wasn't white after what we did, but I guess
was red. It was fully red.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is that as we were like animating everything, I was like, should we do blood? But then it was like, wait a minute, these things are like zombie characters. They're probably like no hearts beating, so there's probably not going to be any blood coming out of these guys. So if any blood happens, it's on our side.
Yeah, I mean, I think there probably was some just blood and general
Yeah.
body goop around,
Yeah.
but they specifically, I think, were not, didn't have blood in them as creatures. Yeah,
Yeah. The rib cage in front of the vampire was certainly like
very graphic. Yeah,
very graphic.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, and the next section, it was your starring moment where you went into the observatory and rolled, I think, a 28 or a 27 on your
I think it was a 20.
play.
Yeah.
Right, like Elton John's Rockin' Man.
I couldn't think of anything. I was like, is there an Aussie singer? Is there an Aussie like singer I could do? Maybe I was thinking like, should I do something from The Greatest Showman? But like, it's technically not Aussie.
Like,
I mean, like, I guess like.
Yeah. You have to know. There's like two knowledge gaps to get to understand that. Yeah.
That was so out of the blue. I truly believe that this would be the fighting ground for the vampire to come in, and I was like, I'm just gonna fuck with his shit. And
yeah, I mean that was when you put like a piano in a creepy room, right? You know someone's gonna play it.
Yeah.
Whether it's like a full 3.5 minute song, or whether it's just like I touch one of the keys. So I really intentionally made it so that made nothing happen.
No, but like, what's so funny is that Jess got, I wouldn't say irritated, but like, got really, like, is something happening? Is something gonna happen?
Yeah. That's perfect.
Yeah.
I find that really satisfying to completely subvert the expectations. But I guess I did the opposite with the telescope, right? Because
Yeah.
that was exactly what you shouldn't do. So I guess I don't do it all the time, but
No,
it's
but
fun to do
I'm
stuff
glad
like
it
that.
led up to that moment where it's like in the beginning nothing happened, nothing happened, nothing, and then finally something happened. So it was
Right.
something. It was a thing that we were waiting for, and I think that was very fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's such a. I love playing about with height in fights and in battles. And fortunately for you guys, Neela getting pushed out, she saved, and you getting pushed out, you saved. So
Hmm.
actually, it didn't. It could have been a flat field. It could have been a flat plane the whole time. But um, again, lucky rolls. You rolled high when you needed to.
Yeah. What's that meme? Take to the skies and fight me, you cowards.
Right, right, right.
But yeah, I thought something that didn't really come up, which was well, it did come up actually. Craig can fly. Which
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's flying characters are can be a nuisance,
yes.
and especially you don't really think about it. I described the room, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's about 5 stories tall." And then 10 minutes later, you're like, "So the room's really tall, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to fly directly up." And it's like, "Oh, cool, 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 cool. That's fine, that's fine. Yeah, that doesn't break it at all. Yeah, that's fine, that's fine."
I was a bit worried as well, to be fair, about that. I was like, he knows that I have these boots that can like get me to fly. We're in a room that has really high ceiling. Maybe these things have like some gook that they can throw at me or something. And also, with the shield as well. Like it was the idea of like I'm supposed to be the chosen one, so I should like protect people. But he also wanted to his favorite. I'm pretty sure Craig's favorite book series has to be Percy Jackson because he's taken so much of the not credit, but like so much of like inspiration from like the from Percy Jackson's boots to his shield to everything
Uh-huh.
to the whole vibe around him. So I don't know. That was Craig. that was
That was great. Yeah,
yeah.
I haven't read or watched Percy Jackson, I'm
Mhm.
afraid, so I can't comment. But yeah, he definitely had talked a good game, and he
Yeah.
pretended he was the hero until it actually came to crunch time.
My okay. I don't think he pretends to play. I think he. So the funny thing about Craig is that he has no reason not to believe that he is the chosen one. There are some people
Yeah,
who have like god complexes who are like, "Oh yes, I can never be Bean. I can never be I'm always the hero of my story." But like when you're isekai'd into a world and you have God on speed dial and nothing but good shit has happened so far, you kind of start to believe that yeah, maybe you are meant to be the chosen one. So
yeah,
it was truly never out of the idea of like he's never been harmed, but more like every situation has led me to believe that this is my story.
yeah. Fair enough. Fair
Hmm.
enough. And there is a point about 2/3 of the way through the first battle where someone's like, "How much damage has everyone taken?" And you're like, "Nothing, nothing. I haven't taken a single hit." And it's like, "Yeah, he's the chosen one, of course."
Oh, my goodness. I could talk about this for hours, but I'm not. Moving forward. So yeah, piano thing happened. We go outside again to the lovely
Hmm.
space.
Hmm.
I was a bit sad that there was no stars in the skies. You made it very clear that there was no there it was like dark skies, nothing bright.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, visually that's I want I
Oh, for you to draw. Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, until you get up to the telescope and you can
Yeah.
very specifically see everything.
But that was very fun. I also thought I truly believe that this would be a lore dump position with the telescope because he had books on he had books like scattered around the table and then they had the telescope, and I assumed like, oh, we're gonna go here, we're gonna listen to read out these books and like be more sympathetic towards Duke Zygmunt. But nope, not all.
Well, I'll give you a little peek behind the curtain
Mm,
again. That section that is a modified version of something that happened in a campaign that I ran. So that he and there was a bit of a lore dump in that section, which obviously wasn't relevant to in a one shot, it would have all meant nothing. So initially, you're right, that would have been a wonderful little discovery. So sorry it didn't happen, but it would have meant absolutely nothing in the moment if I'd have told you what it said initially. Um, yeah.
Well, either way, the outcome was still awesome. We fought. Duke Zygmunt finally came up after Neela was paralyzed by the telescope, which was
Hmm.
very unexpected. Even Jess was like, "What's happening now? Why do I need to roll? Why do I need to roll?"
Yeah. And the moment of I love throwing a curveball as well. Like, oh yeah, you can act fully, but you can't talk. So
Hmm.
no verbal spells. And they were like, "What? I've never had to look at this before." That made me laugh on the day. I found that a really
Yeah,
fun moment.
that was great. Yeah, and like, wait a minute, all my spells have verbal components. No.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and I also loved when their turn came back up. They're like, "Am I still screaming?" It's yes,
Yeah,
you are,
yeah,
and everyone's like, "Hey,
oh yeah,
shut up! You're
yeah.
you're being very loud."
Hmm. Hmm.
We are that kind of group where it's like we don't care about if we're in any trouble. It's like, hey, keep it down. You're giving me a headache. Yeah, it's
For sure.
but
Yeah, yeah. It's always. I think it's always that's quite normal for a D&D group. I think to have fun until it suddenly gets very serious and someone dies. Right,
yeah. Hmm.
like it's a right up until the end, and there's normally a moment you can tell when it turns. But luckily, there was no fear of that in this. None of you came that close.
No, we keep close. I mean, like Duke Zygmunt
Mm.
put up a fight. I'm not gonna lie, he put up a fight.
He put up a fight. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was all right.
Don't be rude. He was fun.
Yeah, it's killing a character in a one shot is a really funny thing to do, especially if it's not quite at the end of the adventure. Um,
You start
it's
out 5 minutes in and you kill off one person. Yeah, that's great.
right, right. Like it's I mean, in theory it could happen, but
Hmm.
no, I've only had one character death in a one. Oh no, I've had two. Oh yeah, one was pretty bad actually, but yeah, normally characters survive one shots.
Hmm. Yeah, we recently were in a one shot together at one point.
We were, yes,
Yeah,
run by Guff, a
Guff.
little pirate adventure.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, where we both completely unexpectedly wanted to play the ship's cook.
Yes, out of like, what's so funny is like, you can be a pirate, you can play anything you want, and then we both,
Mhm.
without talking, we were like, we want to be a cook. We-
Yeah, I want to play a funny little guy who
yeah,
works in the kitchen. Like, there was no like, oh, I'm going to live up my pirate fantasies. I'm going to be a captain. We were like, yeah, I just want to play the funky little guy who works indoors, like the true fantasy.
absolutely. But that's the fun thing about character creation, it's always just like it's always for me like it's always about fulfilling a certain fantasy or just like or just like putting yourself in the mind of a character, which is always just fun.
Yeah,
Yeah, same.
especially on a one shot where it's like, let me just have some fun with this. Like, I don't need to.
Hmm.
I'm not going to be playing this for the next year. What's going to be fun for me to throw about for a couple of hours?
Absolutely. And we just curve stomp this pirate called Longtooth.
Mm,
It was just it
yeah.
was just it was almost sad.
It was a bit sad. I felt a little bit guilty because I did something that was very clearly not what was intended.
No.
But I think it was for the best. I think Guff even said to me afterwards he thought it was
Yeah.
a really fun way for it to go.
Yeah. We're not gonna go in too long into that because we it'd be take
Because no one else was there.
yeah,
Yeah.
knows what the fuck we're talking about, unfortunately, but trust us, it was a fun thing. It was a fun time. Go check out Guff. I'll
Yes. Yeah. Guff the DM.
yeah.
Good mate of mine.
But yeah.
I have a question for you. I'm going to
Mhm.
turn the interview questions on you. Talking about character creation, do you find that your characters that you make now are very different to the ones you made when you first started playing TTRPGs?
Honestly, no.
No?
It's like my first character was a druid. It was a warlock called Shaggarith, who's like Shaggy. His everyone named Shaggy, and he was truly a stoner character.
Right.
It
So
was
no, you haven't changed at all.
no, it was true. I've always kept like I've always wanted to play like fun characters, and that's always been my goal.
Yeah.
And I think I haven't changed because of that mindset of like, oh, what's fun? Or I've never been like I want to be someone who's like a crippling past. I want I want them to be depressed all the time, or like no, just be a regular guy sometime. Be a
Right.
regular person who goes on fun adventures. That's like always the key.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. And that I think is more fun to play, right?
Yeah.
It's more the sort of edgy loner is can be difficult. Can be difficult.
But there are ways. I think there are ways to do it.
Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely, definitely. Yeah, yeah. It can be done really
Hmm.
well. Um,
Do what you think
I
is
I
fun.
have done it and I've
Yeah.
had it done, and I think it can be a really fun character as well,
Yeah. Just do what you think is fun. That's my goal. That's the key. Uh,
and something that will be fun for other people to play with.
True. I've really later on, if I ever get to be a player again, I really want to do something with someone else who's playing, like have shared backstories or have shared relationships with someone. That'd be
Yeah, yeah,
that's the
yeah.
goal.
That's awesome. I love that. My again, my campaign where I'm a player at the moment, I have a largely shared backstory with another player, and it means that when you start from session one, there's something to talk about. There's something to kind of bond over and stuff, and it's gone right up to we're about 8 9 months in, and it still is like an important relationship. It is really fun. I highly recommend, as long as you maybe not on your first campaign with the group, but if you end up doing another campaign, it is a really fun way to enhance the game. I think to have a proper shared backstory, as long as there's a little bit of secret
Yeah.
that the other one doesn't know, it is a great way to ease in. I think and make those early sessions a bit less awkward while you're still finding your feet.
Yeah. This isn't me, but a friend of mine who did do like a combination of like them having a shared history together, or like uh, they had this really fun idea of one person is playing this ranger who goes into caverns and like tombs and steals artifacts, and
Right.
the other player is playing like a revenant that's haunting them because they they stole something from their crypt. and
Right.
they're just like such waspy people to each other.
That's cool, but I like the idea that they kind of get on a little bit.
Yeah.
Like they are mortal enemies, but also, you're not so bad.
It's like the reaction is like, go back to my tomb and put back my fucking lamp. He's like, no, I'm going to sell this eventually
Yeah, right, 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 right.
and hopefully get
Yeah,
rid of you.
and I think that sets up a nice sort of final moment as well for the
Yeah.
two of them.
Because that's such a cool thing. But yeah, that's something to explore later on. But yeah. Uh, since I always ask this question to people, right beside me okay, my character is facing towards me, so on his right, I guess yes, there we go. What? Nope, nope, nope. There we go.
Are you
So
talking about this vending machine over
yeah,
here
this
that I
vending
can
machine
see?
here.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. What is your preferred D&D snack? Because I have this vending machine that just gives me everything, apparently.
everything.
Yeah.
So if I'm DMing, this might be a hot take. I don't eat anything, because you have to be ready at all times to suddenly talk or to describe something. So I will just have a drink and I won't eat anything. If I am playing, I will have usually like a hot cross bun or like a something like a baked good, but nothing flaky. I want something that is quiet when I eat it. So like I usually won't have crisps or like nuts or anything. I want something that is quiet so that my chewing won't disturb other people if they're having having like an emotional scene together, or sometimes like gummy sweets or like boiled sweets
Right.
again. So, which I probably sound like an 80-year-old man, but something that like won't bother other people. Um, but then I don't mind when other people eat snacks, so I don't know why I take it that seriously. But yeah, I will tend not to have snacks. I would rather everyone stopped, we all ate together, and then we started playing again. Hot take.
It's a fair take. But yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
I won't ask you the same question because I know that you get asked it every single time you do one of these, and you have to come up with a new answer. So I'll spare you having to come up with a new one.
nah, you're good. But this is usually a time where I talk about healthy snacks. Yay!
Green tea.
No.
No.
I actually don't like green tea very much.
Mhm.
That's a hot take. Ba-bum-tsh.
And a hot drink.
Yeah. But yeah, healthy snack of the week. So I recently been making homemade Snickers, which is
Oh,
which is very good.
okay.
So
In bar form as well, like
yes,
in actual chocolate bar form. Oh,
hmm
cool.
it's very simple to do. If you get dates as like the fruit, dates,
Hmm.
you open them up, you you put them in hot water for at least 10 minutes. They will uh, be very more malleable. Then
Hmm.
what you do is that you put peanuts in there. Then you can put almond butter or you can put peanut butter in there as well. Close it up, dip it in melted chocolate, put it into a freezer, and then you have something that tastes exactly like a Snickers.
I'm gonna try that.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law does something similar to that. He does like date and caramel, but it's in like a big chunk, and we just like snap massive bits off it. Yeah, it's really nice. Fully plant-based as well. I think the one he makes, and so delicious.
hmm Yeah, that's a great part about it. It's a healthier option as well. To people who like Snickers.
Right, get one of your five a day while
Yeah.
you're enjoying your Snickers bar.
Yeah. I used to, well, not used to, but I eat quite a lot of Snickers actually because Snickers has come out with protein bars. So
Okay.
yeah. So what's funny is that after I've done like a workout or after I've done judo, I would typically like eat like a Snickers a protein bar and then drink like 2 bottles of water. Yeah.
But that's after the workout.
Yeah,
To me, that's
exactly.
like when you're getting ready to go. That's like, like how you fuel up. But that's you calming down. That's
Yeah,
your post workout.
exactly. That's the key to your workouts as well. If you want to get the best time to get protein intake is very much after a workout, within 20 to 10 minutes after. Like,
Okay.
yeah. There's a specific time frame. I'm not a scientist, sports scientist. I'll not go into it. I'll just talk about what people have talked about. But yeah, that's essentially it.
Okay. Good to know.
hmm
I need to start working out more,
hmm
or at all. So I'll bear that in mind when I when I start. I'll have my homemade Snickers and my 2 bottles of water ready to go.
Nice. That's all you need, my friend.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, I see my bus in the horizon, so I think no, I think we have to get this going. Uh, Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. Would you like to
Okay.
tell the audience what you're working on, what's your next thing?
Sure. So the next big thing that's coming out is, so we mentioned it already. It's Folklor's Fabulous Friends. It is it's an upcoming Kickstarter. Again, hopefully they'll have a date that by the time this goes live. It's a supplement for D&D 5e. It's going to have at least 6 new subclasses and a bunch of magic items. Part of the campaign as well is that you get a chance to play in one-shots run by me with other backers. So if you listen to the Reaching Woods one-shot and you enjoyed it and you think it sounds fun, then that's your way to get involved. Um, it's going to be digital only. So it's going to be nice, cheap. You haven't got to worry about shipping or anything, and it's compatible as well with 2014 and 2024 character creation. Obviously, speak to your DM before creating a character with any unofficial material. And yeah, that's what I got going on at the moment.
All right, I'll make sure to check that out. You better as well. And if you haven't already, please stop what you're doing and check out the one shot. It's awesome. We had
You
fun
know
time.
most of what happens now,
Yeah.
but it's still enjoyable. It's about the journey, not the destination.
Exactly. All right. Thank you so much again. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.